I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip, and I want you to guess where you think the vocals were used as an instrument. So I am sure most of you were able to tell that this was a vocal. But I highly doubt that you are able to tell that this was also a vocal. In this video, I will be showing you how to turn your voice into an instrument, and this can be done inside of any DAW, but I will be using FL Studio, and there will be a preset in the description as well that you can download to make the process easier for yourself. But whatever DAW you're using, you can just use stock plugins and follow along, and you will also need a sampler of some sort. We're going to be using FL's stock sampler. Ignore all these other presets, there's just a lot of stuff going on in this project, but what we want to focus on here is this Petro backing vocals. So basically what I did here is I used a filter to filter out a lot of the sound before adding back in saturation, distortion, compression, and a little bit of maximizing and limiting to bring a lot out of the vocals and make it sound more like an instrument than a vocal. I'm gonna go ahead and play the vocals for you without any processing, and you can see how bare and simple they sound. And with even just a few of the plugins turned on, you can see how we start to build an instrument sound. I would say the four main things that are doing the brute of the work here are the filter, the saturation, the compression, and then EQing it all at the end to get rid of the frequencies that we aren't looking for. If you don't have a saturation plugin, you can get Saturation Knob for free from Softtube. I've plugged them many different times, and I'll have the link in the description like I always do. So you can go ahead and grab that, and that's something that I use on a ton of different stuff, not just my vocals. I use it on 808s, I use it on drum buses. There's tons of different stuff that you're gonna wanna add saturation to, depending on what sound that you're going for. And there's two versions of this preset. The first has the filter in the beginning, so we filter everything out and then we add the sound to it to give it the sound that we're looking for. And then the second version has the filter afterwards, so we're adding all this distortion and saturation to the vocal first, and then we're taking it away with the filter and then finally EQing it out to give that filter what it's looking for. Let me run down specifically what each thing is doing. So I use Destructor for its filter. You can use anything, but this also happens to have some stereo shaping with it, so I just thought that sounded really cool, so I threw that on there. Next, I use Sound Godizer just to raise the highs back in that I took out with the filter and to add some sound to it. Next, I use the saturation knob turned up about 3/4 of the way, I'd say 75%. Then I like to turn on the keep high to keep the high end inside of the saturation. Next, I use a compressor. I used a 4x ratio and then quite a bit of gain. I kept the release really long so that the compression was kind of constant. Then I used a basic limiter. You're gonna wanna use this for a noise gate, more than likely, especially if you try to record with the preset on, because it's going to boost up all the white noise and high end and make it sound super crazy because of the saturation. I don't have the noise gate on because I'm applying this preset afterwards, so you don't necessarily need it on. So this limiter is just being used to limit the sound right now. It is not being used as a noise gate, though I do recommend that if you need it. Then lastly, I have a Parametric EQ with a low pass and a high pass on. And with that, we're just taking away the treble and the sub frequencies that we aren't looking for. And you might want to add some of that back depending what you're looking for. I just already had a lot of high end in my mix, so there wasn't a lot of necessity to adding any high end back in, so I left it all cut around 4K hertz or so. The really cool thing about this preset that I made is you can use it for sound design as well. I made an Alien Sounds preset by just adding Fruity Convolver with the Blur White preset added to it. Moving on to the actual sauce that I'm sure you want to know even more than some basic sound design like that. And that is turning it into an actual instrument that you can actually type in. Like so. So basically the first step of making this into an actual instrument is recording it into its own track and then putting it into the sampler. So to do that, we're just going to assign it back to 15 here. And then we're going to arm track 15 and then record audio into the playlist. It's going to try to assign a mic, but we're just going to click that to none. Then make sure we leave the arm on again because it'll de-arm it when I turn the mic off. But with it armed and playing, it will record the audio for us, and we'll get a version of the vocals with the effects on them already. Once you re-record the audio back into your playlist, you are going to want to chop the part of the audio that you think sounds clean and is something that you can sample into a sound relatively easily. For me, I chopped this section here because this first section sounded like it would work easiest. And once you have it chopped, you can go ahead and click in the upper left and make unique as sample. And then I went ahead and further chopped it down to a section that I found even cleaner. Once you have this section here, you're going to want to go ahead and add it to your sampler. It's important to add it to the sampler because it gives us a bunch of more options we can work with, including this envelope that is super necessary for getting whatever sound you're looking for, whether it's a pluck or more of a reverby piano sound, as well as basic LFOs and then pre-computed effects like boost, EQ, RM mix, stereo delay, reverb, that kind of stuff. And the sampler overall is super important to getting the sound that we're looking for. The first thing that you want to do once you have it in the sampler is edit it in Audio Editor and then click Regions, Detect Pitch Regions, because this will show us what pitch it's in, and this is going to be important to make sure that when you're playing it on a piano, it's actually playing the right keys. For us, it shows F sharp. So we're going to go ahead and grab that, and in the sampler, change the key to F sharp. And then now when I play it, it's actually accurate to what note I'm playing. So when I play a C, it's actually a C. Now, messing with this envelope here, say that we were looking for a pluck. What I would do to get a pluck, shorten the attack, shorten the hold, shorten the decay and the sustain, as well as the release. And this should give us more of a pluck, maybe give it a little bit of decay. And as you can see, we already have way more of a sound. And then if you're not trying to do a lot of post-processing, then you can just add some of the pre-computed effects, like say some reverb and stereo delay. But me personally, I like to apply it to a mixer track and then actually work from there. So I already have some stuff here in Insert 2. I just added a Parametric EQ, took away some of the treble, and I didn't use a high pass to get rid of the low end. I kind of just tuned it off a little bit, so that's still going to be there. I added in some fruity reverb, some compression, this time just at a ratio of 2 instead of 4, and a lot less intense of a release and attack, and then reboosted the highs and mids that I took away. And with that, it sounds more like this. And most people wouldn't be able to tell that that is a vocal. So it's a super cool way to work with vocals and to turn them into different sounds. Let's say that we wanted to turn this into a bass, maybe. We could add some Fruity Blood Overdrive, turn it up, add some Fruity Fast Distortion, make sure the mix isn't too loud or it's gonna sound crazy, and then EQ the bass back in and maybe take away some more high end, and maybe turn this filter off, and that should give us some good bass. And let's play that with this melody I made and see how it sounds. So that is all made from my voice, both the melody and the bass as well. And that is something super fun and cool to do. And it's a super good way to help learn sound design and just experiment with what you can do with what audio and what you can turn it into. I don't necessarily do this in every song of mine, but it is something that I really enjoy for both texturing and just for a melody. When I'm looking for a straightforward melody, I can always just experiment with something like this. And it's also very useful in remixes when I'm only trying to use sounds from within the song I'm remixing. So what I'll often do is sample melodies into my own instruments that I can make my own melodies from. and that's something that I really enjoy doing. I hope this video helped you guys learn how to turn your voice into an instrument. If you guys need any more help on this, let me know in the comments in any way that I can help. These presets, like I said, will be available for download in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to go ahead and subscribe, that would mean a ton to me, but if not, no worries at all. And like I said, I hope this helped, and I really hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching, and I love you guys.